Oh, goody.
Alright, what's up everybody? Zombies here again. And today we have another Mercenaries video for you. So today we are looking at the kind of results of the tournament that just happened this past weekend. The NPH, no pros here, last Mercenaries standing, sponsored by HSReplay, was the $1,000 prize pool. Super fun event, really cool format. For those of you who were not aware of it, basically the format is it's kind of like Last Hero Standing, a little bit in standard, where basically you have, if you lose a game, you get to switch out mercenaries from your collection, but the only rule is when you do that, you have to keep 2 mercenaries from your starting lineup, and then you can swap out the other 4 with whatever, but 2 mercenaries have to be kept, no more, no less. And that made for some really interesting kind of comps and comp selection and choices between games. So I had a lot of fun playing in this. I played in this. We had a lot of great players competing, actually. So it was just a really fun event for the community. It was cast by Mullahu and Dragon Rider. They did a great job with that. The VOD, for those who are interested in watching, who maybe were not able to catch it live, that is going to be going up on her YouTube, actually. So we'll pull that up here real quick, and I'll leave a link in the description. But yeah, so if you're looking to watch some of the awesome games in the tournament, it'll be going up over here on her YouTube. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that, because there were some really cool games in this event. But getting back to our little spreadsheet here, this is actually a spreadsheet of all the decks from the event. And someone in chat was actually kind enough to put this together towards the end of the event, and which it was really awesome. Always a big fan of the community members who are, engaged enough to be doing this kind of thing. So really cool to see this. So I thought it would be fun to kind of take a look at what we have here. So obviously we have some spoilers for the event. So if you want to watch it without knowing who won, and you don't know already, definitely turn off here and wait for that. But for everybody else, Dallas won the event. That's why we have his name highlighted here. And it was really, really awesome watching his kind of performance through the bracket. So I'll also have a link to the bracket in the description, but we can pull it up here real quick. Basically, here's the bracket. We're pretty zoomed out. But as you can see, we had a lot of people sign up. So there were a lot of buys in the first round just because of how the numbers worked out. As you can see, we had 53 players registered, between some no-shows and some confusion about the server stuff. We ended up having 35 players checked in. So good number still. Was pretty happy to see that. A lot of people playing. But one of the funny things is if we actually go down here and look at the brackets, you'll notice most of round 1 was buys. So we'll zoom in and we can see Warshack versus Tom. Keep scrolling down. Dallas versus Boston. And then EPT Hopper and Mackie. But those are the only ones out of all 35 players, so there are only like 3 games in round 1. But I thought it was pretty funny that that of all the people to get stuck with round 1 games, Dallas ended up with them, and then he went on to win the whole thing. So that was really cool. We can see his bracket here. I'm not going to go too in depth on the bracket stuff. I'll leave that in the description if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, we're going to be focusing on the decks here. So I did mention the format of the tournament. With a tournament format like this, kind of expected Diablo and Karen to be pretty much must-haves, because they are 2 of the most flexible units that you can kind of keep just them on a team, and it doesn't really mess up your synergy. Like the one of the kind of interesting things about the keep 2 rule is it messed with comps that really wanted a specific 3 backline in multiple of their comps. So like nature, for example, we have Cookie, Malfurion, Brucon. And, you know, if you're starting with a nature backline and you have to switch, not only, and you want to keep nature, not only do you have to just keep 2 of them, you're also locked out of, you know, those first 3 mercenaries too. And so nature, I think, even though it's incredibly strong, was a little bit less advantaged in this format compared to Karen and Diablo, because they just synergize well enough and are strong enough units on their own and just with their synergies together. But looking past that, so we have Diablo was the most brought Merc at 22, Karen at 21. One important thing to note about this number compared to kind of the previous stats we've had to look at, like at the last tournament, is the sideboarding for this event is there was no limited, you didn't lock in a sideboard. So the numbers are obviously going to be a little different here, because just because a Merc isn't listed a ton doesn't mean it isn't a popular choice that just happened to come in more off of the sideboard for game 2 or for game 3. But yeah, going down the list, we can see Varden, the 3rd most popular pick at 18, Valera just behind him, 17, and Cookie and Jaina actually tied under her at 16 a pop. Then the numbers start going down a little bit. Grom at 13, which, to be honest, I kind of was expecting more of. They covered it a little bit in the end interview with Dallas, but I think a lot of people, when they're preparing for this tournament, were expecting a very large amount of GVT, Grom, Valera, Thrall. And basically, I don't think there was as much of that as I expected there to be. We obviously have the lists here, so we can go through and see it. And one thing you'll notice is, and we were actually about to get to him, Illidan and Tyrion, 11 apiece. So basically, that tells me that there were 11 people who basically brought Frost Tyrion, it seems like. And I was one of those 11, so is Tankster. So we are part of that sample size there. But it was really interesting to me seeing how many people brought the Frost Tyrion with the Karen, Diablo, Illidan bench. And the reason I liked that comp so much was because it felt very flexible in terms of what it can switch into, and just on its own, it's a fairly solid comp. So that was kind of my idea for bringing it. And we'll keep going down the list here, and then we'll talk a little bit about the comp Dallas ended up winning with. So after Tyrion, we do have Brucon, 9 appearances, Malfurion at 8. So nature, less of a showing here, and I think that what I mentioned before is a big reason for that. I think with this particular format, you are less incentivized to be running nature in your starting lineup, unless maybe you're doing something like a nature Valera with like the big stomp Karen. That could be a possibility, as that's a pretty strong deck, but that's one that gets absolutely demolished by GVT, which we saw in the finals. So yeah, definitely wasn't that surprised that there was less nature here, because Karen and Diablo just made for better swap options for this kind of format. Then keep going down, we have actually, this is where things start getting interesting. We have some Cornelius. So coming in at 4, we have Cornelius, Lich King, Thrall, Vol'jin. So I was really surprised by the lack of Thrall openers in this event. I really was expecting more GVT, and I think what happened was that's kind of what everybody was expecting. So instead of people just bringing GVT because it's good, everyone, I think, tried to bring a deck that was, okay or decent against GVT, but could also be good against like the rest of the field, and had flexible swap-ins. So it's pretty interesting to see that only 4th Thrall in the starting lineups. But I do think GVT did end up being a better off the bench switch than initial lead for this kind of event, because the nature backline with it is just so strong. And then we have Blinkfox, Eudora, Natalie, Tamsin, and Tavish at 3. So pretty cool here. Not really much Shadow this time, but I actually ran into Shadow in my series with Mana. I'll probably be uploading that tomorrow because it was a good series of games from round 3 of the event, and I really liked Mana's lineup. Basically, what Mana did was he brought a GVT deck, but the bench was Samuro, Natalie, and Vol'jin. So it was a Shadow Sam bench. So you could honestly do either lead. You could go with that Shadow Sam lead, or you could go with GVT, and they're both like decent backlines too. So he actually ended up going with the Shadow Sam approach against me, and it was really interesting. Like, we had some really good games. So I'm probably going to be uploading that tomorrow. That is from round 3 of the event. And Mana did go on to face Dallas and ended up losing to Dallas. So I think it'd be neat to post the, part of what got to the bracket there, because there were some fun games. And it's always fun playing in tournaments like this, especially when there's a big prize pool on the line, right? Like, it's really exciting to like have something to compete for in Mercenaries. And I think that's something we could definitely use more of. So definitely want to support all the events like this going forward. Keep looking down the list. Kurtrus, 2 Kurtruses. That is just so surprising to me. We can actually take a look here and see if we can find where he is. Thankfully, we have some nice color coding. Make it a little bit easier. There he is. So Kurtrus was brought in Warshak's lineup, and it was Jaina, Varden, Karen Diablo, Kurtrus, Tavish. That's neat. Kurtrus and Tavish in one comp. That's pretty some grade A quality spice, if you ask me. So I like that. I haven't seen Kurtrus in a while, so that definitely surprises me. And then here's the other one. This was Lil Wiz and Brukan, Kurtrus, Malf, Murgle, Samuro, Zyrella. That's also a spicy lineup. That's cool. So it's neat seeing different stuff brought to the event, because obviously this was the first time a format like this was tried. Everyone seemed to really like it, so I think definitely could see future iterations on it in going forward, like trying out new stuff with this kind of rule set. However, obviously Karen Diablo is pretty encouraged with this, so I think it could be neat tweaking the rules a little bit maybe for next time, just to encourage a little bit more diversity, even though they'll probably be there in a big percentage anyway, even without the 2 swap rule. But we'll have to think about it and see. But rounding off our last here, we actually have our one and only one. So Anduin. So I think there was 1 ma'am, if I recall correctly. It's kind of crazy. I guess the big thing with ma'am is it really needs all its units, and so swapping could be kind of rough for it, I suppose. But so we have Anduin, Antonitis, Edwin, Barangeddon, Murgle, Mukla, Ragnaros, Trigor, Varian, Velen, Zyrella, all at 1 of. So these showed up in a few of the comps as some like interesting tech, but I don't think any of the The Super Spice made it too far. I didn't end up facing the Edwin Eudora in my first games in round 2, so that was kind of fun. I was actually a little worried at first because they had a triple fighter start, and I was running, Frost, Tyrion, so double blue. So I was a little scared at first, but it Frost's just OP, so ended up clutching that out. But yeah, really interesting choices. Again, the all this stuff will be in the description, so if you want to take a look at these numbers yourself, it will be available to you. Again, thanks to No Pros Here Discord for hosting the event, Posca for just doing so much to get all this stuff organized and going, HSReplay for sponsoring the event, Mullahu and Dragon Rider for doing some awesome casting. It's really great seeing a event like this just be such a good time for the community, because it's a totally community grassroots made event. It's by the community for the community, and I think that is a really good path forward for Mercenaries. Maybe eventually we'll get some official Blizzard support down the road, but as we can see, with even a mode as popular as Battlegrounds, that took like a really long time for them to start getting. They're just now getting the more competitive esports stuff going for it. So we'll have to wait and see. But so far we've already we're like 4 months into Mercenaries, and we've had like quite a few events already. There are definitely more planned that I'm sure we're going to hear about soon. So yeah, a lot to look forward to here. But I just thought this was interesting. So looking at Dallas's list here, he actually brought a list that I don't think anyone else in the event brought, from my knowledge. Basically, the one he brought was his Sensors list. It's kind of the Frost Valera 2.0, where you have Karen, Diablo, Grom, Jaina, Valera, Varden. And this does kind of a staggered Frost lead, where usually you're starting with Jaina and Valera and Grom, and then you're getting Varden in off the bench to get some fast snaps. So unlike like Frost Tyrion, where you double up on Frost, this is pretty different. This is another kind of interesting thing to think about with switches too, as this does enable you to swap into a pretty nice wide variety of things. As we saw with the finals game, he actually was able to swap into GVT Nature in game 3, as the opponent was running Nature Valera, and that is a incredibly lopsided matchup. GVT just absolutely rolls over Nature Valera. It's not even close. It's probably like an 80-20, 70-30 matchup type of situation, at least, I would say. It's really unfavored for the Nature Valera. So really big props to Dallas for that kind of heads up read on what to bring, as I don't think anyone else brought this. Honestly, I totally forgot about this deck. Like, I played it a bit on ladder a few weeks ago and I really enjoyed it, but I haven't played it much since, and I haven't seen it either. So totally just blanked in my mind that this was even like something to think about, and it ended up performing against the whole field of the tournament really well. So really big props to him for heads up decision with a really good starting lineup. I think he benefited from not over preparing for this event and just kind of going with what he knows. And, that's kind of a good strategy to go for in regular Hearthstone, and it seems to be the same in Mercs. You're going to get those extra percentage points when you're playing something you've played 20, 40, 100 times, right, on ladder. You know the lines, you have the experience, and you're not going to get tripped up with it as easily as something that, may be performing well win rate wise, but you don't have a whole ton of experience with. So really cool comp. Definitely one I'm going to have to start trying out some more of, because it was really strong in this event, and I bet it would be really strong on ladder right now too. I love getting, a look at the numbers. been using that HSReplay new feature quite a bit to look at the numbers of what's been going on and how things have been performing. And I'm excited to try that stuff out more when the new Mercs come out. I'll pop it up here really quick. Now, if we go down to mercenaries, we have our tier list and parties. So the tier list and parties are part of a sub for HSReplay. I actually won some time with this from playing in the tournament, which was kind of cool. It was part of the prizes. But there is another feature on here. You do not need to be subbed at all to use the My Collection feature. This is actually totally free to use and whatnot. So basically, if you download the deck tracker over on downloads here, this will actually track all your mercenaries progress. If you're a visual person like me and you like seeing your progress visually without having to like scroll through the collection and check what you're missing, this is a great resource. As you can see here, I've completed a lot of my mercenaries. It actually tells you your amount of coins. So I almost wish I didn't see this, because let's sort to highest. Look at that. Almost 10k Rokara coins, 8.5k Cornelius. It's a little painful to look at. Like, let's see, can we find a legendary somewhere up here? Obviously, the lower rarity ones are going to be more. Yeah, our first legendary Anduin at 2,500 coins. So hopefully fix for that the extra coins soon. But as you can see, it actually shows you the number here of what all your skills are rated, so you can keep track of that. And it even tracks your portraits. So that's a really nifty little feature that I really like as someone who cares about the portraits. It's cool seeing, quickly what I have and what I don't have without having to scroll through the client. But yeah, thanks again to HSReplay for sponsoring the event and doing like some cool stuff for mercenaries. I really like features like this, so I'm looking forward to seeing what stuff they do with it in the future. But that is going to do it for this video. Again, tournament will be going up on Dragon Rider's YouTube. I will leave a link to that below, and definitely check it out if you didn't get a chance to watch it live, because there's some really great games, some really solid mercenaries play. Congrats again to Dallas for winning the whole thing. Absolutely crazy run through. He had some really sick games, played really well, and it's even crazier when you think about he was doing that on like no sleep, because he is in Australia and this tournament was happening at like 6 in the morning his time or something ridiculous. 7 in the morning. Ended up going to like, it was long actually. It was probably even earlier. Maybe it was 5 or 6. I don't know. I'm bad at time conversions, but he played at some crazy hours. So it's crazy he was able to play so many games and still like play well with like all the time zone weirdness and lack of sleep. So congrats to him. Love to see, someone in the community end up winning it. Some really great competition playing. I was really happy to see how many great players we had in the tournament. So that always makes it that much more exciting when you're facing some known players who are going to be really good, and you really have to think about how you're going to win. And it was cool to see new people. It was great, even just bring in some random comp of what you have. Free to enter, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so might as well give it a try. Worst case, you at least get a little bit of a learning experience out of it. So I'm looking forward to more tournament stuff like this in the future. We'll be announcing some more tournament stuff in the future as well, so keep an eye out for that. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.